I never thought a half-eaten slice of expired red velvet would unravel my entire life. But there she was, tiny, filthy, eyes like shattered glass, pressing her face against the bakery's glass door after closing. Her voice a rasp that cut through the winter chill like a switchblade. Please.
Mom.
Just a crumb? It smells like heaven in there.
And me?
Freya Harlan, queen of sugar highs and small-town smiles in this godforsaken corner of Ohio. I hesitated for half a second before unlocking the door. Because who turns away hunger when it's staring you down with a child's desperation? But my husband, Mark, the man I'd built this life with, the one who'd sworn on our wedding Bible that we'd conquer the world together, he shoved her back into the snow-dusted gutter with a sneer that twisted his handsome face into something feral, muttering, "Get lost,
kid,
before I call the cops on your thieving ass." That was the night everything cracked open. Mark came home reeking of bourbon and lies, collapsing onto our king-sized bed in the farmhouse we'd mortgaged our souls for. And in a slurred confession fueled by liquid courage, he admitted it all, the affair with my own sister, Lena. Stretching back 5 years, the way they'd siphoned off bakery funds to fund their love nest in Cleveland, and worst of all, how he'd pinned the embezzlement on me, falsified ledgers, anonymous tips to the IRS, sending me to county lockup for 3 months while he played the grieving husband in the tabloids. It was for us. Fry, he whispered, his hand groping for mine like I was still his fool. To start fresh. You were always too soft for the real world. I lay there in the dark, heart pounding like a jackhammer, plotting his end not with a knife, but with the slow poison of truth. Because, in America, revenge isn't about blood, it's about bankruptcy, bad press, and burying your enemies under the weight of their own hypocrisy. The next morning, I drove back to the bakery on autopilot, the snowplows roaring past like indifferent gods, my mind a whirlwind of Betrayal's debris. Harlan's hearth, our little empire of cinnamon rolls and coffee clutches, sat squat and defiant on Main Street in Milford, Ohio, a Rust Belt relic where factories shuttered decades ago and folks clung to diner stools nursing dreams as flat as their beers. I'd poured my 20s into this place, kneading dough at dawn while Mark schmoozed investors with his all-American grin, that cleft chin and quarterback build masking the snake coiled inside. Lena, my baby sister, the one I'd raised after Mom OD'd on pills and Dad split for Vegas, how could she? We'd shared bunk beds, secrets, and a pact to never let men turn us into ghosts. Now she'd ghosted me for a shot at his wallet. I flipped the open sign too early, the bell jingling like a mocking laugh. And that's when I saw her again, the girl from last night, huddled in the alley behind the dumpster, her threadbare coat dusted with fresh flakes. She couldn't have been more than 8, all elbows and knees, with matted brown hair framing a face smudged with yesterday's dirt. No parents in sight, just a cardboard sign scribbled with "Will work for food" in crayon. My gut twisted. In this town, kids like her were the fallout from meth labs and mill closures, invisible until the cold bit too deep. I stepped out, steam from my thermos curling like cigarette smoke, and crouched low. Hey,
kiddo.
What's your name? Ruby, she mumbled, eyes flicking to the bakery door like it was El Dorado. You got any of that cake left? The red one? It looked like Christmas. I nodded, throat tight, and fetched the tray of day-olds we'd earmark for the church pantry, slightly stale, but still sweet enough to chase away the frostbite of neglect. As I handed her a slice wrapped in wax paper, her fingers brushed mine, cold as river stones, and she devoured it right there, crumbs tumbling like confetti at a funeral. Thank you.
Miss.
Daddy says beggars get the scraps.
But this.
This is magic.
Daddy.
The word hung there, innocuous as flower dust, but it lodged in my chest like buckshot. Over the next week, Ruby became my shadow. She'd appear at closing, never begging outright, just watching with those haunted eyes as I swept the floors or iced cupcakes for the VFW bake sale. Milford wasn't kind to strays. The cops shooed them toward the shelter on the edge of town, a converted motel with leaky roofs and state-cut funding. But Ruby had stories. Whispered between bites of lemon bars I'd sneak her, a mom who went away when she was 4. A dad who promised Disneyland but delivered disappearances. He works at a place like this, she said once, pointing vaguely at the bakery. Sells cakes and smiles. But he's mean when the money's short. My laugh was brittle. Mark had been short on smiles lately, snapping at suppliers, eyeing the register like it owed him. It was Thursday, trash day, when I found it. I'd sent Mark on a supply run to Columbus, really just an excuse to get him out of my hair while I combed through his desk for proof of the affair. His office was a shrine to his ego, framed articles on local entrepreneur turns bakery into boom, a bottle of single malt half empty, and drawers stuffed with receipts for motels I'd never seen. But tucked behind a stack of vendor invoices was a child's diary, spiral-bound, cover splashed with unicorns and rainbows. The kind you buy at the dollar store for back-to-school dreams. Ruby's handwriting, childish loops and smudges, filled the pages. Entries dated back months. Daddy yelled today 'cause I spilled the flour. Said Mommy left 'cause of me. I missed the cake lady from the park. And then, gut punch, Daddy's friend is Aunt Lena. She brings candy but looks sad when Daddy kisses her. They talk about hiding money from the redhead lady. I think the redhead is nice. Her hair's like fire. Redhead.
Me.
The pieces slammed together like a car crash on I-71. Mark wasn't just cheating, he dragged Ruby into it. His secret daughter from a one-night stand before we met. Abandoned when the novelty wore off. Lena knew, hell, she'd probably helped cover it up. Playing auntie to the kid while plotting to steal my life. And the embezzlement? I'd signed those tax forms blind, trusting him like a fool. Taking the heat when the feds came knocking. 3 months in lockup. Labeled a desperate housewife turned crook in the Milford Gazette, while he played victim and expanded the bakery with my blood money. Rage boiled up. Hot as oven scorch. But it was the diary's last entry that shattered me. Daddy says if I tell anyone about the money or Mommy's pills, he'll send me to the bad place. But the cake lady smiles like she knows. Maybe she'll save me. Mommy's pills. Overdose. Like mine. And Mark, had he?
No.
I wouldn't go there yet. But as I clutched that diary, snow swirling outside like accusatory whispers, I knew this wasn't just revenge. It was resurrection.
For Ruby.
For the woman I'd buried under years of his charm. I'd start small. Anonymous tips to the right ears. Leaks to the local rag. But Mark was slippery. A chameleon in khakis. Always one step ahead with his boardroom bullshit. He'd flip the script. Paint me as the unstable ex. The jealous harpy.
Fine.
Let him. In America, the truth is a loaded gun, and I'd chamber every bullet. The days blurred into a fevered dream of dough and deceit. Each sunrise a reminder that Milford's picket fences hid more rot than the apples in my harvest pies. I stashed Ruby's diary in the false bottom of my recipe box, Gran Harlan's old tin. Etched with sweetness conquers all, a lie I'd believed until Mark's confession turned it to ash.
By day.
I was Freya the fixture, apron tied tight, dishing out bear claws to the Lions Club and small talk about the Browns' latest joke. How's that handsome hubby holding up? Hon, Mrs. Kowalski would coo, her dentures clicking like castanets.
Nila.
All teeth and no soul, murmuring, thicker than my roux. Marge, while inside, I catalogued their gossip for leverage, who owed Mark favors, whose marriages were fraying at the seams. Nights were for reconnaissance. I'd slip out after he passed out snoring on the couch, football reruns flickering like guilty consciences, and drive my beat-up Subaru to the edges of town where the lights thinned and the secrets thickened. First stop, the Milford Library. That squat brick bunker with its microfiche machines wheezing like asthmatic uncles. Under the guise of genealogy research, I pored over back issues of the Gazette, cross-referencing dates from the diary. There it was, buried in the obits from 7 years back. Tragic loss. Local woman succumbs to accidental overdose. Ruby's mom, Tessa Klein, waitress at the old steel mill canteen. Single. Survived by loving partner Mark Harlan and infant daughter.
Partner.
The word slithered like oil. Mark had been engaged to her when we met at that dive bar in Akron, spinning tales of fresh starts while she swelled with his kid. He'd bailed, left her to the pills prescribed for nerves, the article noted, after a domestic dispute. No charges filed. Of course not. Milford protected its golden boys. Next. Lena. My sister had holed up in a duplex on the east side, the kind with peeling vinyl siding and cars on blocks like modern art. I parked a block away, engine off, watching her silhouette through lace curtains, laughing into her phone. Probably his. The betrayal stung deeper than Mark's. We'd been thick as thieves. Me teaching her to frost cupcakes, her covering my shifts when I miscarried our first and only try at a baby. Family first. Fry, she'd say, hugging me fierce.
Now?
Family was her ticket to the good life, and I'd been the toll booth. I waited till she stepped out for smokes, her yoga pants and Uggs screaming midlife crisis, and tailed her to the Quick Mart. There, in the fluorescent hell of lotto tickets and Slim Jims, I cornered her by the coolers. Lena. My voice was calm, a scalpel wrapped in silk. She froze, Coors Light trembling in her grip, her Botox-smooth face cracking like cheap glaze. Fry? What the you stalking me now? Defensive. But her eyes darted, guilt's tell. I leaned in, close enough to smell his cologne on her scarf. Ruby. Ring any bells? Mark's little secret, the one you anteed while bleeding our accounts dry. Her laugh was a bark, too loud for the aisle. You're delusional. That kid's nothing, street trash. Mark tossed a quarter to once. And the money? Business. Cease. You are drowning us in your artisan bullshit. He saved the bakery.
Saved.
The word ignited something primal. By framing me, 3 months in a cell block that smelled like despair and Lysol, while you two played house. Tell me about Tessa. Did he push those pills? Or just forget to pick up the phone when she needed him? She paled, clutch tightening on her six-pack. Tessa was weak. Addicts always are. Mark gave her chances, money, a ring. She chose the needle. But her voice wavered, and I saw it, the flip. Lena wasn't all in. Doubt flickered like a shorting bulb. Look, Fry, walk away. He's got lawyers, connections. You'll end up back in stripes. I smiled then, slow and sharp. or you'll end up with nothing. Think about it, little sis. One call to child services about Ruby, and your fairy tale crumbles. I left her there, sweating in the beer aisle. Seeds of discord sown. Back home, Mark was oblivious, grilling ribeyes on the deck like we were still the Harlans of Instagram fame. Bakery bliss. Couple goals. Babe, try this rub, smoky as a summer sin, he called, flipping meat with tongs that gleamed like his lies. Dinner was a minefield. Small talk about expansion plans, his code for more laundering. My nods laced with arsenic. That night, as he scrolled Zillow for our dream cabin upstate, I hacked his email, password still fry forever, the bastard's blind spot. Jackpot. Threads with a shady accountant in Toledo. Wiring funds to offshore shells. And worse, emails to Lena plotting my disappearance from the business. She's cracking, he wrote. Push for divorce. Site instability. We get the bakery clean. Cracking. The word fueled my fire. I started small-scale sabotage. Accidental, overorders of flour that spoiled in the humid backroom. Anonymous Yelp reviews from burners panning our stale ethics. Mark raged, blaming suppliers. Firing the line cook who'd been with us since day one, a single dad named Carlos. Collateral in my war. Guilt gnawed. But so did the thrill. This was America. Baby. Where the underdog bites back with spreadsheets and spite. Ruby kept coming. Her visits a bomb and a blade. I'd sit her at the counter after hours, plying her with milk and muffins, coaxing more diary fodder. Daddy has a safe, she confided one dusk. Chocolate smeared on her chin like war paint. Behind the picture of the lake house. Says it's for emergencies. But he never shares. Lake house, our honeymoon spot. Now his bolt hole with Lena. I ruffled her hair. Heart fracturing. You're safe with me, Ruby. Promise. But safety was a luxury in Milford, where the river ran black with industrial ghosts and dads like Mark treated kids like bad investments. The flip came mid-month. A Thursday tempest that flooded the streets with biblical fury. Mark burst into the bakery mid-rush, soaked and snarling, dragging Ruby by the wrist like a ragdoll. Found this pest rifling the trash again. You encouraging her, Freya? Turning my place into a soup kitchen. His eyes were wild, veins bulging, coke-fueled. I guessed, from the lines I'd glimpsed in his bathroom kit. She whimpered, twisting free to burrow behind my legs. I didn't steal.
Daddy.
Just looked for cake. He loomed, breath hot with Red Bull and rage.
Lies.
Like your whore mom. The slap he aimed was instinct. I blocked it with a rolling pin, wood cracking against his forearm like thunder. Customers gasped. The bell tinkled as they fled. Get out, I hissed. Voice steel in sugar shell. Touch her again. And God help you. He laughed. Low and lethal, rubbing his arm.
Oh. Fry.
You're done. Cops on speed dial for salt. And that diary? I know you have it. Lena told me. Lena. The rat flipped faster than a politician at a fundraiser. He leaned in, whisper venomous. Ruby's mine to handle.
You?
You're the villain now, jealous. Unhinged. Enjoy the headlines. As he stormed out, towing her kicking and screaming, I sank to the floor amid flour drifts, the bakery's heart exposed like a gutted fish. But villains win wars.
Mark.
And mine was just igniting. The fallout hit like a nor'easter off Lake Erie, cops at dawn with a warrant for child endangerment. Mark's statement painting me as the harpy hoarding strays to spite him. I lawyered up quick, calling in favors from the women's shelter volunteer I'd baked for gratis. A sharp-tongued XDA named Trish who smelled bullshit from a county mile. He's cornered. Freya, she said over weak coffee in her cluttered office. Files stacked like Jenga towers. Flipping on you hard. But that sister's cracking too, subpoenaed her texts. And honey, they're a gold mine of motive. Trish's grin was feral. In Ohio courtrooms, truth was the great equalizer. But only if you armed it right. Jail this time was colder. The holding cell a concrete womb where echoes of women's sobs mingled with my own ragged breaths. No 3 months of this. Bail hearing was swift, thanks to the bakery's deed in my name, pre-betrayal naivete. But Ruby, God.
Ruby.
Child Services whisked her to foster care, a group home on the outskirts where kids like her learn to armor up young. I visited twice. Plastic partition between us. Her small hand pressing the glass like she could melt it. Miss Freya, Daddy said you're lying about the safe. But I saw him put Mommy's necklace in there. Shiny like stars. Her words were lifelines, pulling me from despair's undertow. That necklace, our wedding gift from Gran. Sapphires winking like false promises. He'd pawned fakes. Kept the real for Tessa's ghost. Out on bond. I went nuclear. Trish filed the countersuit. Fraud. Alienation of affection. Custody petition for Ruby as psychological parent. The Gazette ate it up. Bakery brawl. Wife alleges hubby's double life. Front page fodder that had Milford's busybodies buzzing like hornets at a picnic. Mark countered vicious, leaking evidence of my instability, doctored therapy notes from after the miscarriage, implying I was one breakdown from a padded room. Lena testified first, perched on the stand in a pantsuit too tight for her nerves. Flipping again under cross. It was Mark's idea. The money. The kid, he said Freya, was out of the picture. The courtroom gasped. Even the judge. Old Harlan kin, on Dad's side, arched a bushy brow. But Mark, he was the maestro, mopping his brow with a handkerchief that screamed Southern charm misplaced in the Rust Belt. Your Honor, my wife's unraveling. This revenge fantasy? It's Munchausen by proxy, with a side of munchies. Laughter rippled. He had them. That silver tongue turning poison to punchlines. Then came the PI's report, photos of me tailing Lena. Stalkerish shadows that made me look unhinged. The tide turned, whispers of crazy redhead echoed the halls, and Trish pulled me aside post-recess. We're losing the jury.
Fry.
Sympathy's fickle as farm prices. You gotta drop the hammer or we settle. And Ruby stays with him. Settle. The word was surrender. A white flag on my soul. That night, alone in the farmhouse that now reeked of his cologne ghosts, I cracked the safe behind the lake house photo, combination from Ruby's birthday. July 14th, 17. Inside, stacks of banded cash, Tessa's necklace, and a flash drive labeled contingency. Plugging it into my laptop felt like cracking Pandora's jar. Videos. Grainy but damning. Mark and Lena in motels.
Sure.
But also him cornering Tessa in their old trailer. Voice low and lethal. Take the pills, Tess. Or I walk. And Ruby starves. Not murder, but coercion. The slow grind that broke her. And bank records. Not just embezzlement, but kickbacks from tainted suppliers, rat poison in the flour runs. Hushed up to cut costs. One bad batch could have killed dozens. He'd gambled lives for profit. Let me take the fall for the audits. The climax brewed in the storm of closing arguments. Courthouse packed like a Black Friday sale at Walmart. Mark took the stand last. All earnest eyes and quivering lip. I love my family, Freya. Lena. Even little Ruby. This witch hunt. It's tearing us apart. Crocodile tears. But the jury leaned in. Hook set. My turn. I didn't rant. I rose slow, diary in hand, and read Ruby's words aloud. Voice steady as yeast rising. Daddy says I'm the mistake. Like Mommy was. But the cake lady sees me. Gasps. Then silence thick as fog off the Cuyahoga. Mark didn't just betray me, I said, locking eyes with him across the oak divide. He betrayed her, left her to beg in alleys while he built empires on lies. And you, Milford, you let him, because golden boys get grace. The jury deliberated 18 hours. A purgatory of vending machine coffee and what-ifs. Verdict, not guilty on endangerment, but fraud conviction for Mark, 10 years probation. Restitution triple what he stole. Bakeries seized for auction. Lena walked with immunity for flipping final. Her testimony sealing his fate. He planned to frame you permanent.
Fry.
Said you'd crack and OD like Tess. Crack. The echo mocked me. Ruby? Custody to me. Pending psych evals, half-win. Her small hand finally in mine as we exited to flashbulbs and jeers. But the twist, the one that split souls and sparks barroom brawls, came weeks later. Post-sentencing haze. Mark, out on appeal bond, cornered me at the new apartment I'd scraped for. Ruby asleep in the next room.
Not I. Just hollow eyes.
A man unmasked. You think you won. Fry, that drive? Insurance. Copies everywhere. One leak. And your hero status tanks, poison batches. Kids sick from Harlan's hearth. Ruby included. She ate those muffins. Bluff or truth? His smile said both. We co-parent, or I burn it all. For her. I stared. Heart a battlefield. Call his bluff. Risk the headlines, vengeful mom's deadly doe. And Ruby in the crossfire? Or truce? Chain myself to the devil for her sake. Controversial calculus. Was revenge worth a child's light dimmed? I chose silence. Handing him visitation rights over Trish's protests. You're no better than me, he whispered, slipping away like smoke.
Now.
Months on. I run a food truck, wanderlust whisk, parked at farmers' markets. Ruby giggling as she pipes frosting, her laugh chasing shadows. Mark visits Sundays, civil as a ceasefire, but his eyes hunger for more. Happy ending? Or bikarmic trap? Where no one's saint or sinner, just survivors scraping by? Milford debates it still. Over pie and pints, was I avenger or enabler? Hero or hostage? Pour another round, the truth's as murky as the Ohio River. But damn if it doesn't taste like vindication. Bittersweet as expired cake.